All right, Steve, are you ready to do this thing?
Man, I am always ready to do this thing. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
What up, y'all?
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 21. Steve, it is time for us to go down to the Three Broomsticks and get a butterbeer, my friend.
We're old enough to drink the blue milk. Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is that time. 21 episodes. You know, I'm loving doing this every single week with you. It's one of the highlights of my week. And I'm just so happy to be here with you once again.
You know, I always feel like, you know, we start off a show and you watch, you know, Fallon or you watch Kimmel or, you know, Johnny Carson back in the day, Ed Sullivan probably. And, you know, they always had to be like, we got a really big show. You know, they could have like, you know, I don't know, like
Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Exactly. Some horrible guests. We got a really good show for you, right? We got Andy Dick on the show. Yeesh. Gene Simmons. I mean, who knows what? So we do though. So I'm not, I say that being that, you know, I'm not leading you down the primrose path to be like, man, we got a really crappy show for you. No, we actually have a great show tonight. I'm really excited to be back. We've got some really cool things to talk about. We'll get into the main event, which I think everybody's going to be very excited about. But before we do, I always start. So you know, ladies first. How was your week?
Well, if ladies are starting, my friend, you've got to go first once again.
Ooh, burn. No, check this out. So before you actually get started, I will start. So my son,
you go first. No, now I'm going to go first.
So my 11-year-old son, so he had his birthday this weekend, though his birthday is actually not until the 26th of April, but, we live next to a water park. It's an indoor water park called Key Lime Cove. And every single year for Christmas, my father will get our family like a 2-night stay over there. And so you stay in the water park and it's a hotel resort. And so we've been going there. It's kind of like an easy gift for my dad. Like really I never think about it. Just every year, kids love it. They think he's the best grandpa in the world. He doesn't have to write them into the will. It's perfect. And so we've been going there for like 7 years. 7 years, every year. And they are closing down because they're being gobbled up by some large Wisconsin Dells conglomerate water park called Great Wolf. And so this it's not little, but this single shingle, you know, Key Lime Cove is what it's called, is being shut down for about a year and a half while this new company comes and gobbles them up. So anyway, so this last weekend was the last weekend for them to be open. So he invited like 4 or 5 of his friends, and they all went there, and they spent the whole day splashing and whatnot. And it culminated in a comment by one of his friends being like, "This is the best birthday party I've ever been to. Who has their birthday at a water park?" I was like, "Yeah, dad points."
Nice. So this is your dad. This is Tim that does this for him every year.
Yeah. But the reason that I brought this up wasn't to talk about my son's birthday, which it happened. It was awesome. It was fun. But on the way up, it's always so funny to like just listen like a fly on the wall to the conversations these kids have, right?
Right.
And so one of the things it's come back like freaking bell bottoms and afros. They're like, "Man, you got burned," or "That was such a good burn." And
right.
And I'm like, "What? Like that was like what, the 80s, like early 90s, like burn." And the other thing that they say is somebody will say something like, "Oh man, that you know, that movie stunk." And they're like you?
Wow.
And then everybody would be like, "Burn!" I'm like, "Are you serious? This is the cheesiest crap I've ever heard."
I wonder if it's also that they're just kind of getting into the whole idea of trash talking and
exactly,
you know, giving each other a hard time. So it's like the most like PC polite way to trash talk. They're like, "Man, you stink. yeah, like your mom. Ooh, you're like, wait a minute, you're brothers. That doesn't work,
Exactly.
guys.
They haven't even gotten to like the yo mama jokes yet. No, it's still just like you, and it's like it doesn't even make sense. Like, it's cold in here. Like you. Oh,
really? You know,
it's
as you were also telling me, I thought of a side note. So you're saying this place is called Paradise Cove?
Key Lime Cove, like the
Key
pie.
Lime. Ooh, very nice. So, okay, Key Lime Cove. And you said it's being bought up by Great Wolf?
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure that the owner of Great Wolf did an episode of Undercover Boss like a number of years ago, because I feel like I saw an Undercover Boss episode about someone who owned like maybe like I think it was like Great Wolf and something else, and like they're based out of maybe Minnesota or Wisconsin, and they were like going to a few of their indoor water parks and like, you know, checking on the towel situation and the cleanliness and like customer relations and all this other stuff. Because are they, I mean, I don't know if the Key Lime Pie water park does this, but do they allow like people to stay there? Is it like also a resort, or is it just strictly a water park?
No, it's actually just a resort. So you can't just go there like willy-nilly and be like, hey, I want to swim for a few hours. You have to be on property. So
gotcha.
So yeah, very well could have been. I'll have to look that up. So
well, it's sad that the Key Lime Pie water park is closing.
Key Lime Cove.
No. It's Key Lime Pie now.
Get a free pie with every stay.
Nice. But no, that's cool. So hopefully when it reopens, it's been revamped and the fun factor is more for your kids, and even maybe like the nostalgia factor of like, hey, we haven't done this in like 18 months. And so when it does open and your dad, Tim, does that for one of the birthdays, it's like a huge blowout and like, you know, it's a big event.
Right. Well, hopefully the price doesn't go way up because they're going to expand by another 20,000 feet. You know, anyway. The other thing that happened this week that was funny, though, is on Friday, my son had a celebration for his STEM thing that I've talked too much about.
Steam?
Yes, Steam. Yes. It's a gift. But anyway, so, and they had their party at Dave & Buster's. So he went like from like Dave & Buster's, like 5 hours at Dave & Buster's, slept for a few hours, got up, went to Key Lime Cove, swam for a few hours, slept for a few hours, got up and had Easter, like granulated sugar, and so it was a fun-filled weekend of sugar and bizwangs.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So
I learned something about myself this last weekend, and
pray tell.
I'm a horrible father. I've just decided that this is who I am. I'm a horrible dad because we made a huge mistake. The kids were super excited for Easter. They're really excited for the Easter bunny. You got to remember, Charlie's 4, Jackson's turning 3 next weekend, and they're into the Easter bunny. And so we told them the Easter bunny's going to come tomorrow. So they wake up in the morning, they're super excited, they get into their baskets, and they got, you know, some swim trunks and swim shirts and, you know, a towel, a beach towel, and some bubble guns and some, you know, various knick-knack toys.
Yep.
And then they got a whole bunch of candy. If I were a good father, even a decent father, I would have maybe understood the fact that I didn't want them to eat a basket full of candy before we tried to go to church for Easter service. Because my boys were like, it's so hard to describe it, because just saying they were wound up or rowdy doesn't quite put the right sentiment on it. I guess the right sentiment is I was willing to sell them to the circus. And I just, it was a very interesting church service. I apologize to everyone I was sitting near because my boys were just bouncing off the wall. And then we come home and they do an Easter egg hunt in the backyard, and their Aunt Reese comes over and the boys are still eating like more candy and then candy they got from the eggs. And they just like wouldn't go to bed last night, and they woke up this morning like really early and they're like, Daddy, candy. We want candy. We want Easter bunny candy. I don't know what I did wrong in a past life, but man, I totally made a mistake on the Easter candy. We should have done the baskets after church.
Yeah.
After.
There's not sugar and pixie sticks, right?
Right, exactly.
I love how they make those large ones that are like, 3 feet tall and like a diameter of like a quarter. I'm like, how much sugar is in that thing?
Okay, it's not even that. For me, it's the chocolate bunnies. Like Jackson and Charlie were like, we told them you can't eat candy until after you have a bowl of cereal, which was Rice Krispies, no sugar, just plain Rice Krispies with some milk. And Charlie took maybe 3 bites of his cereal and goes, "Look, Dad, I'm drinking the milk," and just drank the milk, left the entire bowl full of Rice Krispies there. He goes, "Can I have my bunny now?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, fine, have your bunny." And so he opens up this big chocolate solid, not one of those hollow ones, solid bunny.
You guys spare no expense.
I know. We got it from Wonka. What can I say? Jackson then grabs his and goes, "Daddy, Daddy, chocolate." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. Your brother's got it." And like, they're just holding this big thing, like sitting at the table, just like gnawing on it. And I'm thinking, I made a mistake. This is not going to end well.
So let me ask this. So I think this tells a lot about a person. When you start eating the chocolate bunny, do you start with the ears first or the feet? Or the tail, maybe? I
go right for the throat. I just try to like gnaw the head off and then, whatever remains of the carcass.
Yes. No, really, I think most people go for the ears, right? But
it's ears, yeah. My boy started at the ears.
Yeah, it probably says something though if like you go to the tail first.
I don't know what it is.
Hey, weirdo! You sit in the back with the freaks.
It's like the kids who take a hot dog and instead of like turning their head to the side and eating it, lengthwise, they just like take a big bite right out of the middle, like they're trying to, I don't know, like snap a wishbone in half or something. I don't know.
Or they eat it from the middle. They just
yeah.
It's weird.
So anyway, it was So
you had a good Easter though. You had a good Easter.
Yeah.
Besides
I'm in church and we're someone's at the pulpit and they're trying to talk about Jesus and whatever, and I'm over here thinking, for the love of all that's holy, please, kids, quiet down. And someone says, "There's been a great spirit here today. I hope the spirit continues all day." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You weren't sitting back here because the spirit of contention and anger and hatred was back here. I'm going to go to the dark side." I don't know what you guys were doing up in the pews where it's nice and comfortable. I'm on the hard metal chairs in the back ready to, sell my kids to the circus.
So we had a Easter egg hunt over at my in-laws' house. We went over there for dinner after church, which church was great. And we did wait until after church for the Easter baskets. Nice. But my son, bless his heart, he took like total ownership over like Easter. He's like, "I'll do it, Dad," because I was really tired. I didn't get enough sleep.
Is this Addison or Carter?
Before. This is Carter. So he gets 15 colored eggs, and there's purple, yellow, green, and blue. And he says, "Okay, these are for so and so. These are for so and so." He draws up a key so that they can cross off each egg that they find, and then each of them get 2 bonus eggs. Right? So he has this whole thing organized. He fills them with everything. I mean, he is like taking my role. I'm like, "You can do Christmas and the Tooth Fairy," right. And so he so we go to my in-laws. My mother-in-law and I hide all the eggs. And obviously for Lila and Alana, they're younger, so they're in easier places, right on the ground, in the bush, in the tree, where you can see them.
Right.
But for Carter, I'm like, "Oh no, I ain't sparing no expense." I'm like, I will dig, like, I almost dug a hole in my mother-in-law's planter and like buried one under like the dirt. But the best hiding place I found was in the tailpipe of my father-in-law's car. Now this sounded like a great idea on paper.
Nope.
That was until Carter found the egg, tried to get the egg, and lodged it deep within the recesses of the muffler.
Yikes.
And he has a very nice car. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a costly repair." And my father-in-law, who is an awesome guy, totally just like MacGyver. He's like, "No worries." He gets in the car, turns it on, gives it some gas. Boo! That egg shot out like a freaking cannon at a circus with like a little gimp inside. And it was like the Avalon laid an egg. It was fantastic.
Was it like Augustus Gloop in the pipe?
Right, exactly.
Oh no, my boy! Augustus!
Save some room for later! It was just like that.
Nice. Very well done. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else happened in the week. My week was good. I mean, nothing big out of the ordinary. Besides the whole sugar thing over the weekend, we had just a fun time with the boys. We just got them out of the house a little bit and played in the backyard, and we did some more of that tonight with the boys with their little bubble guns they got. So a good week. But there is something that did happen this week that I want to bring up that is excellent, amazing, wonderful news. Our buddy Sean Capri, who joined us on the podcast a little while ago, Chelsea had the baby. They gave birth to a little baby boy. His name is Lincoln Capri. And Lincoln is a wonderful name. Obviously, it's the longer version of Link, which is, a little maybe nod to Zelda. Yeah. So
cheers.
Very well. Anyway, the baby and mom did great. Everyone's healthy and okay. And they were all able to come home, I believe, a little earlier this morning. So they're home now, resting. Yep,
this
in the
is
Great
real
White
time.
North. Yeah. So anyway, congratulations to Sean and Chelsea Capri and Lincoln. It's so awesome to hear that friends of ours are doing well and the baby was born. So,
the name, I like the name. It does sound like a sedan. Like, oh, you drive a Lincoln Capri? Oh yeah, nice. Is that the newest model, the 2017? Yeah.
It's got all the features.
It was like Billy Joel in his compilation. We talked about his name. It was like he had to name himself Billy for his stage name because like Bill Joel, what did he say? Sounded like a doorbell, right?
Bill Joel.
Yeah.
And William Joel. Hi, William Joe and the Magic Tones.
Don't you go changing.
Sounded a little too pretentious, he said. Yeah.
Right,
anyway,
right.
A lot goes
Very
into
cool.
a name, apparently. But Lincoln Capri, welcome to this world. We are glad to have you here.
Rock on, nerd.
So anyway, that's my week. Steve, did you have anything else on your week? Or are we good to move on, my brother?
We are pretty good to move on. One thing that I wanted to mention in the realm of good husband, which I don't get that award very often, but
there's
some
award
time
for
ago,
that?
It's a self-made award, but yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's made of like a little star that you get on those, when you were like in elementary school. You get a star next to your name and don't have to sleep on the couch.
Nice.
So I reserved a what's called a weekend to remember, and it's a marriage like retreat for my wife and I to go to. So
yeah, you told me about this a little while ago, right?
Yeah. We're headed to it this weekend. It's up in Indianapolis, and it's a 3-day retreat where we go and we learn all about how to be better husbands and wives, and a stronger marriage, which we're all about. And it's cool. So it's got all these different breakout sessions, different speakers, and then on Saturday night, you're supposed to go out and have a romantic, date night just with you and your wife. And so I'm totally looking forward to it. My wife and I are going out, and my mother is watching the kids for us. So a big shout out to Mom. I hope that the house doesn't burn down. So anyway, but we're doing that. So I will report on that next podcast. And for all of you male listeners out there, it might be a good thing to get some brownie points. So maybe I'll put a link up on our Facebook page.
Nice. Well, I guess there's a good I guess if there's a good husband award, there should be like a good friend award or a good podcast co-host award. But I wouldn't actually have achieved that this week because you told me to look up the Potter Pals.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I totally forgot. We're sitting here right now, and it
takes you 3 years to watch Stranger Things, and now this?
My gosh. Sorry.
I'm going to my mother's house. I can't handle this. You don't even listen to me.
Here's the deal. I'm going to watch it this week, and I'll return and report next week on it. Yeah. I'm sorry.
We just need to move on.
I don't get the gold star. My bad. My bad. If anyone else listened to Potter Pals, though, and you want to privately message me and give me your rundown of it so I can regurgitate that.
You want cliff notes to our friendship? What the freak, man? That's twisted. That is messed up.
I just want someone else's review to verify your review of the YouTube.
All right, I forgive
work?
you. Friends forgive and forget. I will never forget, but I'll forgive.
Well, thank you. All right.
All right, so should we get on to your favorite part of the show?
Let's do it, man. Rebel Intelligence.
Let's do it, man.
It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Steve, we are into Rebel Intelligence. Let's get to it. I think I'm going to start this week. So here's something that I think you're going to be very interested in, where you know the TV show Mystery Science Theater 3000 that's been off the air for a little while now?
A lot of while, yeah.
Yeah, it ran though for a long time, and it's been in reruns. Well, it is back, and it's back on Netflix. And
really?
You can see Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it's just as funny as ever. Here's the cool thing. They showed a little preview just this last week of them spoofing Stranger Things. And they showed like
awesome.
a 2.5 minute video of it. Dude, it's so funny. I mean, I can't wait for it to come out. If they spoof like every episode of Stranger Things, I would totally watch that all the way through.
I would just rewatch the entire series. So should I go check it out?
Yeah, definitely go watch that thing.
So what I'll do then is I'll promise to go check it out, and then I won't for next
Dang
podcast,
you.
and then we'll see how you feel. Oh yeah, Spence, that sounds great. I'll go do that.
I promise I'm going to watch Potter Pals. I promise.
It's funny because it's actually like a review from my 11-year-old son, not really from me, but I'm just the mediator. I'm just the go-between.
Very nice. Anyway,
so that does sound cool though, honestly.
Yeah, go watch that little preview, because if you're not rolling in your chair with laughter and just having a great time watching that, then there's a problem.
All right. Also on Netflix, there is, I don't know if you heard about this, rumors that Netflix could be bringing back the one, the only Carmen Sandiego from your and our childhood.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that song?
Oh, I mean, I think I do, but maybe you could refresh me a little bit how it goes.
Well, me. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? That's all I know.
She's doing something around the world and stealing something and teaching us a valuable lesson, but we always to know.
What's funny is the article that I read about this, they refer to the program as edutainment, which is, obviously the meshing of an educational program with entertainment. And it's funny because, I work in real estate, and they do this a lot in real estate as well, where they will take a restaurant that focuses on female body parts, and they will call it the breastaurant category. So that would be the Hooters and the Tilted Kilt and the Twin Peaks and whatnot. Yeah. I just kind of find it funny. So I wonder if there are other things out there in other industries where they mesh things together and do they do that in the IT world?
No, not really. I mean,
yeah.
I was trying to think of what in my field would they mash together to make a better sounding word? Like, hey, we're going to be running network cables and installing routers, so we're going to call them Rables. I mean,
Rables. I don't even know.
Net outers. I mean,
I think So I think it's like people just trying to be creative, being I'm going to come up with a new word, and maybe it'll be the dictionary Webster's word of the year, and some kind of stupid. Well,
think about it. Think about it like this. I mean, if you were an owner of a restaurant, how many restaurants are there out there? Right, tons. Mm-hmm. Restaurants are a very common business. They've commonly fail within the first 2 years. It's a really risky kind of business to open, but restaurants are everywhere. So you got to think, if you're trying to separate yourself out and, you're opening up a Hooters or a Twin Peaks or a Tilted Kilt or, whatever, to label yourself as a breastaurant, it's just marketing. I mean, that's really all it is. It's just another way to try to market yourself as being different and edgy. But I mean,
you know what it really is? Let's call a spade a spade. It's really male chauvinism at its best. Husband point, gold star, ding. Sorry, I just had to put that in there in case my wife's listening.
you know what I'm saying? It's I remember years ago.
It's a differentiator. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a way to differentiate. It's like when Reese's peanut butter cups are we're now putting the peanut butter on the outside and the chocolate on the inside. It's the same dang thing. It's just a way of marketing it. Hooters is still Hooters, no matter what you call it, right? Crappy food, okay service.
The wings are okay. The wings are all right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't like spicy, though. And it's always like buffalo sauce, and that's all we have. No other flavors. And I got acid reflux, man. It's a problem, okay? It's medical. Leave me alone.
We have vanilla wings for those with a mild tummy.
Nah, man. I like the garlic honey or barbecue or teriyaki.
I like it burn going in. I like it burning going out.
Yikes.
All right.
Do you remember, though, getting back to where we were, do you remember where in the world has this conversation gone, not Carmen Sandiego? Do you remember watching the Carmen Sandiego TV show? I remember it more for the video games, the PC games.
Yeah, no, I actually don't remember the cartoon. I do remember the video games, though.
I do remember the song from the TV show.
I remember the first line of the song, as I showed.
Right.
But funny, though, like, and this sounds so bad, but I get Carmen Sandiego PC game mixed up with Leisure Suit Larry.
What?
Which was a horrible
They're like
game.
Totally different.
I know.
One is like based at kids to teach them something. The other is based at like horny male adults who want to get their jollies off on a video game.
I know. I had a friend, Jeremy Higgins. If you're listening, you introduced me to Leisure Suit Larry. So if you could mesh the two, educational point. I don't even know how you mesh that.
No, man. Just no. Stop.
But anyways, I can't. They're confused in my mind.
You had a really tough time in geography class, didn't you?
Yeah. Anyway, but what else do you got? Let's move on.
So I saw this article, speaking of dumb things that just made me laugh, I saw this article this last week that a mathematician is trying to lay the claim that red shirts in Star Trek, the original series, don't actually die the most on Star Trek. And his point he made, which if you just look at like how many red shirts die versus how many gold shirts versus how many blue shirts, command, engineering, and, security, the number of red shirts that die is the highest category. But then this guy, this mathematician, he gets into this discussion and he pulls out the manual of Starfleet and says that on the Enterprise there would be approximately this many red shirts, this many gold shirts, and this many blue shirts. And so he makes the argument that proportionately gold shirts, due to the number of gold shirts on the Enterprise, die percentage-wise more than red shirts, because there's something like, I don't know what he say was something like 250, 300 red shirts, and there was only like 56 deaths, so it equates to a certain percentage, and gold shirts die more. And it's like, if a joke has been around and an internet meme has been around for such a long time, and it's commonly and widely accepted, and the original series ran from 1966 to 1969, and it's now 2017, and you're trying to debunk this so-called myth that you see. You're a buzzkill, man. I'm sorry. I know
exactly.
It's math, but it's like, come on. That's like me, kind of going back and be like, actually, it wasn't the 10 commandments that he came down the mountain with. It was 9 commandments with an addendum to the 8th commandment that therefore people call it 10. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just nitpicking.
Well, and beyond that, like if mathematicians, I would venture to say, are probably in the upper echelon of IQs.
Sure.
In the world population, we got cancer to cure, brother. We have,
right?
Starving people. Like, you're wasting your intellect and your brain power on this crap, man. Come on.
But for podcast fodder, hey, it gives us something to talk about. So
that's some good stuff.
Maybe that was.
I guess this podcast,
calling.
this podcast should be, solving world hunger and feeding the poor and clothing the naked. But we got movies to talk about.
Our IQs combined don't even get near this mathematician.
I know. We can barely cover a trailer without having to consult.
It's taking you 10 minutes to get the sentence out. That proves our point.
I speak good.
I'm done speaking the English.
Me fail English? That's impossible. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
The NES Classic edition that was released last year has now been discontinued after just a short stint.
Seriously?
Yeah, and what is funny about this though is that like, isn't this so Nintendo to be like, give you a little something and I'm gonna take it away. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Like, it was out. People have been hankering for it like crack cocaine on 2-1 and Lewis. And they sold 1.5 million units in that short time they've had.
And demand is still there.
Yeah. Oh, people have been like clamoring for it like Cabbage Patch Kids in the 80s. And of course, when it's at its peak, they pull it back, just having you want more.
So my question is this. Do you think they intended to actually sell this, or do you think it was more like a, hey, let's kind of put this together for like a little niche market just to see if we can kind of sell this thing? Or do you think they like actually intended for it to be a big thing and they're just, I don't know. I just don't know. Like, what's the motivation there?
Exactly. Like trying to find out, the mind and will of Nintendo. Like, they're in the business of making money, right? If you can sell more of your product, you would want to do so, right? I mean, I guess the only thing I could think of is, do they feel like this unit at a price point of what, $40 or 50,
60.
whatever,
Yeah,
$60 is taking away from earning more money with the Switch? I mean, is that really a competition piece?
I wouldn't think so. Here's maybe one thought though. The Switch doesn't have a virtual console yet. The Nintendo Wii and the Wii U both had virtual consoles where you could purchase older Nintendo games. So I'm wondering if maybe they're looking at it saying, we didn't intend to sell this long term. We didn't want to support this long term. We just wanted to, make a quick buck on nostalgia. But we've got the virtual console that could be coming up later that we're going to implement on the Switch, and we're going to sell all these games. So if we continue making them for $60 with 30 games versus selling them for $5 a piece for those 30 games, they potentially could make more on the Switch. I mean, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. The Nintendo company does make some really great decisions and make some fantastic calls, and then it makes some really boneheaded blunders. I think this is a boneheaded blunder. That's just me, though.
I don't know. I think there might be some method to their madness, and I think sometimes in their culture, honor and things like that are more valuable than monetary gain. And so maybe there's. I'm not saying that this is some like, Shogun.
They're gonna commit Harry Carey and kill themselves if it doesn't. I mean, I don't
follow the sword.
Yeah.
No, I just wonder if there is some kind of method to their madness where they use this to maybe promote something later, or they've used this to spur interest back into Nintendo where it's kind of faltered, knowing that it
maybe
would be a big deal, and then those buyers that can't get the the NES Classic might go to the Switch or something else like the Virtual Console.
So then here's my next question. Do you think they come out with a SNES Classic in a few months? Because if they did that and people are still clamoring for it, it would drive a lot of interest for SNES Classic.
True that.
I don't know.
Who knows? We only time will tell.
Right. Interesting. It's a little sad. I would have liked to have bought one, but to be perfectly honest, I mean, at this point, I can get all those games elsewhere. So
yeah,
and I still have my original.
Exactly. That's the other thing that I was going to say. I still have my original. Now, I don't have all those games, but I have the games that I wanted because that's the ones that I bought. So I don't know.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on then, and we'll see what Nintendo comes back to us with. James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and the upcoming Volume 2, which comes out in just a couple weeks, Steve. Let me say this. We talked a few weeks ago about how he was kind of hinting like maybe he wouldn't come back for Volume 3. Well, he's officially announced on his Facebook and on Twitter that he's going to come back and write and direct Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This movie's probably going to come out after the second Infinity War movie and will be either the tail end of Phase 3 or starting and helping usher in Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm happy to hear that. I don't know how you feel, but I liked what he did with the first movie, so I think you stick with the guy, right?
Well, didn't we kind of figure that even though he was kind of playing coy, that he in the end was really going to come out and, of course,
I thought so all along. I mean,
it was the dump truck theory, right?
Yeah.
What's he waiting for?
A lot of cash. Yeah.
Just dump it right in the front, just anywhere, right there. Just put that anywhere.
I want a Scrooge McDuck swim in that, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, that is about wraps up, I think, everything we've got for Rebel Intelligence. Do you have anything else?
No, that's all I've got. Coming up next week, we are going to be having our movie club. We do this once a month, and this upcoming month, we are going to be watching and talking about the movie Hidden Figures, NASA, Civil Rights. This thing is right up our alley. We're looking forward to that. Brita will join us once again, and look forward to that next week. We always ask for reviews and ratings. Every week we ask you, and we're going to do the same thing this week, guys. It's not going to change, but I thought maybe it'd be interesting to read a review or two from some of our listeners, because we really do appreciate you guys going and giving us a review and a rating on iTunes. So I thought maybe as a way to show our appreciation, we would read out your review and give you credit for it.
Yeah.
I've got one here from a guy named Matty Ice 88, and he says, "Love listening to these guys and gals occasionally talk about the things I love, games, movies, and pop culture. It's for the nerd in all of us." I like that.
Nice. Matty Ice?
Matty Ice 88. I know, I read that. I was like, Iceman. I'm like, Val Kilmer listens to this? That's great.
Right.
But I realized his name is Val, not Matty, so yeah.
Yeah, it might be his maiden name.
Right. Just one other. L.S. Reed. Lesser Reed, maybe? Lizard? L.S.
Lizardy.
We'll go with L.S. Reed. I'm not sure. Says, "Even if you're not a big podcast listener, I'm definitely not, you'll have a blast with these guys. Fortress of Nerditude is a great mix of nerd culture, discussion, and funny anecdotes from a couple of guys who've been partners in crime for a long time. Spencer and Steve make getting your nerd on way too much fun. What are you waiting for? Pop your headphones on and get listening."
Dang. Lesser Reed, we got to send the check is in the mail.
Right? That was really good.
Thank you.
I like that.
That was making my hair turn red.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that'd be interesting to kind of toss that out. We do appreciate all of the interaction and that we get with our listeners, and we enjoy that. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Last week, we had a wonderful conversation about the teaser trailer for the new Thor Ragnarok movie. And
AKA Hulk Island.
Yes, Planet Hulk. We talked about a lot of different things, but our question to you was, we were pretty sure that Doctor Strange is going to be in this movie. The post-credit trailer for Doctor Strange, and then, of course, we've heard rumors that he was signed on as being seen filming, but we didn't see him in the preview. We didn't see him in that teaser trailer. So our question of the week was, are we going to see Stephen Strange in one of the trailers, or is he going to be a surprise in the movie? So we asked you, and you responded, and we're going to get to those. Jason Bolth over on Facebook, which Jason Bolth's an old friend. He actually called me, and I talked to him for a couple minutes tonight.
What up, Jason?
Always a good chance to talk with him. We were actually talking about going back for the reunion coming up end of October.
Oh, nice.
High school. Anyway, Jason Bolth says, "I think we will see the cape." So he thinks maybe we just see the cape. I like that.
It has more personality than everyone else in the film, so that's fine.
Right. Going over to Twitter, this was kind of funny because it wasn't like a direct response, but it was. The Nerdfather at dspin67 says, "I can't Doctor Strange. When the environment starts to turn on its side, I check out. It's too much for me." And then someone else, Ian Corey Drake at iDrake76 says, "It was so good in 3D. I'm not a big 3D guy, and so I couldn't see it in 3D personally. So I hope for D-Spin's sake that if he is in the Thor Ragnarok movie, it doesn't like go all trippy and weird, right, because then he's out of that movie too, and I would feel bad.
We don't need hands out of hands.
Right. Hands on hands on hands. Going over to our Gmail, we had two email responses.
Wait. Peter Christensen wrote in twice?
Right, exactly.
One per customer, man.
Man, he likes filling out his forms in triplicate. What can I say?
Right.
Let's start with Peter Christensen, because you're right on the head, our buddy.
Let's do it.
He says, Dear nerds, a couple of follow-ups to the Planet Hulk episode regarding Dwayne Johnson. One of my favorite of his performances is in the movie Be Cool. It's a funny sequel to Get Shorty, and The Rock plays a struggling actor who's also the gay bodyguard of Vince Vaughn, a wannabe rap thug who works in the music business for Harvey Keitel.
Nice.
And he says, one of the monologues where he does both parts of the scene from being a cheerleader in the Bring It On movie. So he's doing kind of like an audition. He says, for Planet Hulk fans, there was a good cartoon version of this in the 2010 Hulk Versus, much better than the earlier Doctor Strange cartoon. He says, speaking of Doctor Strange, I do expect that he'll be at least in one trailer for Thor Ragnarok. Doctor Strange was a successful, popular movie, and I still believe he's going to be the centerpiece of a post-Downey MCU. It'd be a cool surprise if he's not in the trailers, but I think he's too valuable as a marketing tool. Look forward to you guys boozing it up to celebrate episode 21. So, in response,
and done.
I'm raising my glass of blue milk to you right now, Peter. So, I like his response. I think he's right about the marketing tool and the post Tony Stark, but we'll see.
Little Nintendo-esque, huh? Little Nintendo-esque.
The other email, Bryce Jolly. He says, I think I'm on time with this response, but I never really know. I agree with Steve that Doctor Strange will be in the next teaser, but only a short and subtle showing will happen. Maybe just his cape. So he thinks along the same lines as Jason both.
So 2 votes for the cape.
2 votes for the cape. Now he goes on to say, next teaser trailer you should talk a whole hour about is the Last Jedi trailer just came out. Kind of disappointed me a bit, not due to the trailer content, but where they seem to be taking the story. Anyway, that is a conversation for another time. Bryce, no, it's not a conversation for another time. It's a conversation for right freaking now.
The big reveal!
Boom, baby, yeah!
Drop it like it's hot!
So, obviously, we did not talk about anything Star Wars related in Rebel Intelligence because we're going to talk about it in our discussion segment. We're going to get into that. So, Bryce Jolly, right on the money. You had the perfect idea. We were on board with you. So, that's what we're going to get into.
You read the mind and the will of Spencer. So one thing I will, before we get into that, I just want to say to wrap up your comments, wrap up the comments that we received this week.
Go ahead.
Guys, rate us on iTunes. We love you for it. So the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as an Easter egg in the Star Wars Episode 8 trailer. Booyah!
Very nice.
Happy Easter.
Very nice. So let's do this thing. Star Wars is a huge touchstone, I think, for so many people. I know for myself and Steve, like, we grew up with this. We've been around it. We had the toys, the costumes for Halloween. I mean, it's been just a massive part of our lives.
I think that for so many people, and it's cool that it's just spanned the generation, right? They've rejiggered, reinvented, reintroduced, reignited this brand. I think it falters a little bit, obviously, with the earlier episodes, but man, it is back in force, and they are just, I mean, they're basically doing what they're doing with Marvel with Star Wars, and I am so pumped. I mean, of all the things that we talk about on this show, Star Wars is like one of the pillars of the three-legged stool. Maybe it's a one-legged stool, and it is the pillar, but it's, so we're excited to get into this. So anyway, go for it.
So this weekend was a big event. It's Star Wars Celebration. They do one of these every year. It's kind of like a Comic-Con, but only for Star Wars. Now, Steve, this is just my opinion, but next year, I think we got to try to go to this thing.
All right, man. Just convince the bosses.
Well, there's going to be some of that, but if we could get press passes to take the podcast on the road to cover that, would that not be awesome?
That would be awesome.
I'm down for that.
All expense paid, baby.
If they just gave us free passes, I'd be okay. I'd still cover our room expense and the flight. But Star Wars Celebration happened this weekend, and we knew that coming up, so we didn't really want to talk about it much because we wanted to see what was going to be revealed, what was going to be happening, what was going to be new, what was going to be the hot thing everyone's talking about, and there is a lot of it. So let's get right into probably the biggest thing, and then we will, talk about other stuff that happened around Star Wars Celebration. So,
cool.
Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The freaking teaser trailer dropped this weekend. Steve, your first impressions, your first thoughts, just a 3,000 foot, or 30,000, not 3,000, that's too close. A 30,000 foot view looking down on that thing. What did you think?
Awesome. They packed so much into it, but it did leave me with more questions than answers.
Which is what I think a good trailer should do, right?
Absolutely. Keep you wanting more. So, but I thought it did reveal a lot, kind of as Bryce Jolly intimated the kind of the direction of the story. But again, just so many questions burning in my soul.
So let's break this thing down. The very beginning scene, you see like it's like a stone, and then you see like Rey's like hand hit the stone, and then like the camera kind of pulls up, and she's like panting and kind of breathing heavy. Right? And it's kind of set against that backdrop. It looks like it's a bunch of rocks with like what looks like a cave entrance coming into it. At first, I thought this maybe looked like, I don't know, like I wasn't really sure, like, did she just get done fighting? Maybe was she thrown from something and the lightsabers, gone out of her hand? But then I had this thought. What if this scene that we're seeing right here at the very beginning is similar to Empire Strikes Back when Luke is on Dagobah and he goes into that cave that's like full of like the dark side of the Force, and he has to face, like his own internal fears. What if this is her?
And you see like directly behind her that there is a cave entrance, and it looks as though right at the end before the shot cuts away that she's starting to kind of turn back around, and kind of face the cave. So yeah, I think that there is definitely some credence to that comment. What I also love is when this shot first opens up, you don't really know that it's a stone. It almost looks as though it could be the darkness of space with some stars or some planets.
Or an asteroid or something. Yeah. Exactly.
And then the sun kind of comes up over it and then the hand slaps down. I think that was a really cool kind of juxtaposition fade into the opening scene.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, really, really loved it. Like that immediately caught my attention. I was like, ooh, what is going on? Right?
Yeah, and you also see Rey is in the exact same outfit as she was in, when The Force Awakens ended. So we can imagine that this is obviously taking place, right after that scene where she first sees Luke Skywalker for the first time.
Right.
And probably, would assume that she's on the same island that she was on then.
Well, yeah, because I think the next shot we actually see is like kind of like a panoramic of the island, which I think is called Ahch-To. And then like you see like an overhead shot of the island as well.
Right.
And you hear Luke saying like, breathe, just breathe. Now reach out. And like, that's the dialogue we get with it. So I get this sense, and Luke saying something like, what do you see? Right. So I get the sense that like we're seeing like some of her training, her working on, becoming one with the Force. At least that's my feel as to what we're seeing right off the bat in this trailer, right?
Yeah, either that or like, beachfront yoga or something. I don't know.
Right. We're doing Bikram yoga. It's called hot yoga. Bikram yoga, awesome. Starring Yoda.
Ooh, I like what you did there with the change in the D and yeah, I see it.
So we see her there. Like, what's one of the next things that stood out to you, Steve?
So from that scene, I guess you obviously get the understanding that there is some kind of training happening, that Luke is supervising her training. The next shot is she's standing at what looks like a precipice overlooking the horizon. And what I think is kind of cool about this is that, there are a lot of subtle cues, I think, that we've seen through the films of kind of this light and dark.
Right.
And Luke's voice kind of comes over and basically says, what do you see? And you see the dark horizon with the water and the light horizon with the sky. And I think she mentions, it's either here or later on in the trailer when she says, I see light, I see dark. I think that's a little bit later on in this trailer, but it's kind of a cool maybe foreshadowing.
Right. Well, and then like the next shot is like her with like her hand kind of on the ground, once again in that same outfit that she was when she got to the island. And you see like these like little rocks and pebbles kind of like floating up from the ground, right? And so it kind of reminds me of, once again, because I'm going to draw this comparison because I think this is what we're seeing a lot of in this preview, is it reminds me of Luke on Dagobah with Yoda, where he was like starting to float some of the rocks and trying to like balance them on top of one another. If you remember, there's like 3 of them stacked up on top, and
right,
and he had R2 lifted up in the air and he was kind of floating. I think this is some of that, like she's really getting in touch with the Force, and she's starting to realize, the actual ability she has to maybe control it, versus where in, The Force Awakens, it was, she has some ability and she's recognizing it's there, but maybe doesn't have a huge grasp on it.
Yeah, I would say the only difference between this and some of the earlier films is you can't really see the fish wire holding up the rocks.
Right. That too. Yes.
Good job, Lucas Arts.
Right. ILM, you're doing your job. So we see, you talked about that, like the voiceover, like what do you see? And she says, light. And when she says light, we see this like image of what looks like, General Organa, Princess Leia, standing kind of like looking at a big star map. And it looks just like the one that was in The Force Awakens when they were trying to figure out like where Luke was.
Right.
So, we've got that going on. And so like, I don't know if maybe she's having a premonition, like a Force vision here, but I'm thinking that it is.
Do we hear Leia's voice at this time or no?
No, I don't think so. I think we do hear some voices, but I think right now we're still just hearing Luke's voice asking her what she sees, and then Rey responding saying light.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah. So it's I like, and of course we're going to see when we actually watch the film, how they do Leia and whatnot, but it was a nice subtle kind of nod, I think. I liked it.
Right. Going on, there was something I picked up on. I don't know if it's actually there or not because it was very, very fast. But in that scene where she's having that Force vision, which is what we think it is, it looked like kind of through the image, there was actually a picture of Admiral Akbar. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like a Mon Calamari. It looked like Admiral Akbar.
Oh, you're saying on the other side?
On the other side, like on the other side of the image.
Yeah.
Because the last time we saw him was Return of the Jedi, and he was on his, cruiser, Home One, and, he didn't die. I mean, as far as we know, on film, we haven't seen anything of him. So he could be in this. I mean, I don't know why he wasn't in Force Awakens.
Right.
You'd still think he would be militarily, invested and involved.
Well, and again, his race ages gracefully, so we don't really know how old he was. So he's probably, doing quite well, health-wise.
I would assume, I guess. You never know. I mean, maybe he retired to the Mon Calamari version of Boca Raton, and he's just living out the rest of his days there.
Maybe hits the katana or the canteen every once in a while,
right? For
a stiff drink to remember he's alive.
So the next shot we see, Steve, is when Rey says darkness, right?
Right.
And do you remember what they showed when she said darkness?
I believe it was a shattered Kylo Ren's helmet, was it not?
Right. At first, I thought maybe it was Darth Vader's mask. Because remember, Kylo Ren was a little whiny, but he wasn't a girl. Sorry.
Close.
He has Darth Vader's mask that's kind of like half melted. And I thought maybe it was that. But if you actually look at it like real close, which I had to pause it a few times, you see like these like little metal strips that don't match anything on Vader's helmet, but they look exactly like the metal strips that are on Kylo Ren's helmet.
Right. So what do you think the glass was? Was it some kind of display case? Was it
like maybe a glass pedestal that maybe he put the mask on?
Yeah.
Once again, like I look at this and you know, I look way too far into this. I'm thinking, well, maybe Kylo Ren is, you know, abandoned, you know, who he is, and he's going to go back to being Ben Solo, and he's going to go find, you know, his mom after he just killed his dad, and, you know, he's going to, you know, come back to the light side. Yay! Or maybe this is part of that Force vision, and she sees herself destroying Kylo Ren. And this is what we're seeing here. It's kind of a red herring. It's not really going to be what happens, but just a little thing she sees. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, not to spoil the spoiler, but later on in the film, I think we see, you know, Kylo Ren, which we'll get to, and it doesn't appear that he is looking happy, pleasant, looking to go on the light side. That's I'm just going to say.
He's not mostly dead.
Yeah, exactly. He's yeah. So
but
I would say that
we do see him though without his helmet though.
We do. So maybe it was the cleaning lady. She dusted a little hard, tipped it over, broke it. I don't know. She's fired.
So the Imperials have cleaning ladies?
Of course. You think they're going to clean the Death Star themselves? Please, Trip.
Man, stormtroopers, man. Slave labor. Come on now.
Better things to do.
Like what? Miss everyone with their blasters?
Burn!
Ooh, your mom! What?
Yeah. Your mom's blaster.
Listen, kid, dust and crumbs ain't nothing like your mom's blaster.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so the next thing we see is, you know, they said the darkness, we see the mask. The next thing we see this really cool shot of what looks like a tree or some sort of like wood structure, and we see a gloved hand on top of what looks like like an old trapper keeper, but on the cover of that, you know, the loose collection of paper, that trapper keeper, if you will, is the actual symbol for the Jedi. It's the actual, you know, symbol of the Jedi. And the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, it's the Jedi, it's the Jedi, it's the Jedi. This is going to have some sort of information, because you have to think, like, if you put everything in a perspective, you know, the Jedi were the guardians of peace in the galaxy, right? For 1,000 years. And when Darth Vader destroyed and wiped out the Jedi, also there would have been all sorts of records that would have been destroyed, and histories, and you know, everything that involved the Jedi was kind of pretty much wiped clean. And so there's just not a lot of information. So any sort of text revolving around the Jedi, maybe their history, their origin, the source of how they're able to tap into the Force, minus the whole midi-chlorian things that we don't talk about, Episode 1, that would be an important artifact or document, don't you think?
Well, yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you know Star Wars lore and canon and all the rest, as you've read the books much better than I do. But I read somewhere or heard somewhere that this may be the Force tree, or a Force tree where it has some kind of innate powers, and some part of the tree, I think, was given to Poe at some point in the chronology of everything. So I'm wondering I'm wondering if this shelf that contains these books is kind of the last of the, like you said, the Jedi library that Luke is protecting on this island. Maybe I'm not sure. I do know though that when Rey is kind of doing her voiceover of what she sees, she says light,
then she says dark, and then she says balance. And when she says balance, that's when they're showing the Jedi, you know, the tome of whatever's there with the Jedi symbol on it.
Right.
So I would imagine that maybe you're right, that this is what Luke is protecting, or maybe one of the reasons why he left after the Knights of Ren, you know, slaughtered what remaining Jedi that Luke was trying to train up. I don't know. I just look at this thing and I'm like, you know, please make sure that whatever this is, that like, if this is going to be a point of conflict between Kylo Ren and Rey, or, you know, Kylo Ren and Luke, or the First Order, like, make sure that this is something of consequence, like substance. Like, don't cheapen it by like, you know, hey, it's a recipe to, you know, make Luke's favorite meatloaf or something like that. You know, I mean,
that's gotta be what it is.
This whole time, really, it's been a little squabble over a family recipe. That's it.
12 herbs and spices, the Colonel's extra crispy recipe.
Right. Listen, as long as the whole balance thing that she's talking about isn't getting back to like, you know, Darth Vader being the one to bring peace and order and balance to the galaxy, and like we don't get into that, like make it new, okay? That's all I'm saying is make it new, make it different. Let's not rehash, you know, old plot lines. Thematically touching on things I'm okay with, but let's not totally rehash it to death.
Right.
So, something else I don't know if you caught, but it seemed to me that, like, as the dialogue went on, it didn't just seem like it was Luke talking or Rey talking. Like, I felt like they were, like, they put in, like, some, like, breath sounds of Darth Vader at certain times. And I thought I heard, like, a hint of Yoda at one point. Did you pick up on any of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you see the next scene that we go to, we see a cliffside, presumably on the same island, where Rey is training with a lightsaber.
Right.
It looks like Luke is kind of behind her looking on. But if you look really closely, there is some kind of pedestal or some kind of monument. And if you look really closely, it looks as though there is someone or something on top of that pedestal. Could it be Yoda? I don't know, but if you look very closely, it looks like someone is sitting on top of this pedestal, kind of watching Rey's training.
Man, you're looking a lot closer than I am, because it just looks like a pile of rocks to me.
Yeah, you got to get close. But and that begs the question then: is that, you know, is this a Force ghost? Has Yoda been able to, you know, manipulate, you know, death and be able to basically resurrect, come back? Because we do hear his voice in this trailer several times.
That's true. And Frank Oz, when the puppeteer who did Yoda, when he was asked about whether or not he was in it, he was like, well, I can't say anything because then I'll make certain people happy, but others unhappy. But if I don't say anything, then other people are happy and others aren't. Like, what the crap does that mean, like, Frank?
Yeah, Frank, you've said enough.
Right. So I think you're right. I think we're going to see Yoda in some fashion.
Yep.
Whether or not he's sitting on those rocks right now in the teaser trailer, I don't know. We
shall see. Only time will tell.
Right. So then we get this transition to, we see these, gosh, I don't even know what to call them. They kind of look like a B-wing, but they also kind of look like a pod racer. They're kind of going along what looks like salt flats. Like, it reminds me of like the salt flats out in Utah where they go and race like the cars.
Right.
You see these, you know, vehicles, these ships racing across the desert. And at first I thought, oh man, these vehicles are like dropping a whole bunch of like red smoke or something. Maybe they're going to use this tactically for some reason, because it looks like they're approaching a bunch of oncoming like AT-AT walkers. But if you look closer though, they're not actually like trailing smoke, like they're not putting out anything naturally, but they've got like a little piece of the ship that's like ripping into the ground and like pulling up like this dust. It's almost like red dust. I don't know what that's about.
Well, my thought was this. So first of all, it's an epic scene. I mean, when you see this, there's, the salt flats, then you've got, some cliffs behind them. You've got this whole, rebel fleet that's cruising along very low to the ground, kicking up all this red dust. My thought was that, just like you said, tactically, they probably were creating kind of an organic smoke screen, for reinforcements to come behind them. You've got quite a large, kind of gauntlet of AT-AT walkers coming on, that they're meeting on this desert scape. So that was my thought.
That's actually really tactically sound thinking. If you're going to be bringing up other ground forces or support vehicles, because then it would give them cover, because it looks like they're going to be just out in this wide open expanse of salt flats. So,
and the rebels had to be kind of scrappy, right? They always had to kind of look for ways to, use logs, rocks, Ewoks, whatever,
Right. The Rebel Alliance was the Minutemen of the Revolutionary War, that type of, guerrilla warfare, right?
Right. And I think that the fact that, there is purpose in everything that's in here, right? Everything that was in this trailer, you got 30 seconds to show, put it in. The ship that comes into the scene that kind of crashes into the dirt, I think it does that to show that, no, this is not something that they're spraying or trailing. This is from the earth, because it slams into the earth and it kicks up a little bit of a.
So what you're saying really is flying through space ain't like dusting crops, boy.
Exactly.
Exactly. Moving on, which this was to me the funniest part of the whole trailer. And I don't know if funny is the right word, but we see a shot of Finn in some sort of stasis pod, while he's recouping. I was like, yep, all this action's going on, and the only shot we get of Finn is he's asleep. He's just taking a nap. He's just chilling.
He's like Michael Jackson in his hyperbolic chamber.
I've come back. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I know we're going to see more of John Boyega's character Finn, but that's all we saw of him. So maybe he's got some really cool stuff that's coming up and they just didn't want to spoil anything. I'm fine, but...
Or maybe he just sleeps through the whole movie.
Maybe. But the next scene, though, we get to see his buddy, Poe Dameron.
Poor Finn.
Yeah. So while he's taking a nap, Poe Dameron's doing what, Steve?
He is running for his life, following BB-8 as they race down a corridor. Explosions, sparks from around. So it would appear as though, the rebel base is currently under attack. And then we switch to where he enters into a large hangar trying to get on his X-Wing, and a huge explosion engulfs the ship in flames.
Is it just me, or is Poe Dameron, first of all, awesome and a great pilot, but the only other time we see him is if he's running around trying to not get blown up? That's
pretty much.
That's what I felt like he was in The Force Awakens. It's I'm running, they're chasing me, things are blowing up, and now I'm flying, and that's it.
Yep.
We could get some more of Oscar Isaac. I mean, he seems like a capable actor. Give him a few lines, George. Come on now.
Or have him asleep in a hyperbolic chamber.
There you go.
It's the bookends.
Right. And we know George isn't actually writing this, guys. So, you don't have to check us on that. George will. Yeah, we got it. I don't know why. I had to put it in that voice.
Spencer's salty today.
Listen, man, I know. Anyway, the next thing we see some space battle, which I'm always excited to see in a teaser trailer for Star Wars. Show me the Millennium Falcon. That's what we want to see. We want to see it blowing up a TIE fighter. And what do we get in the next scene? The Millennium Falcon blowing up a TIE fighter. Woot, woot. This is awesome. And being chased by TIE fighters. And I mean, it's just satisfying on so many levels. There's destruction. There's flying. There's a ship that looks like a piece of pizza that was bitten into weirdly. It's great.
Are you referring to the Millennium Falcon as a piece of pizza being bitten into weirdly?
Yes.
Who has a square jaw? Mr. What is this?
I'm just telling
James Bond
I'm telling you,
villains?
If you take a piece of pizza and you bite right in the middle of it, enough that the other parts shove past your face, and then you pull it back, it kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon.
Who eats that way? The same sickos that eat a chocolate bunny from the rear?
Or a hot dog from the middle?
Who are you people, and why are you listening to our podcast? Go get some professional help.
The the next thing we see is Rey. And she's looking tough.
Ray.
Dude, our girl,
Ray's
running.
She is running. She's looking very determined, as though she's in some kind of like foot race, maybe like a triathlon. I don't know.
She's just got done running the Boston Marathon, and she's trying to cool down right now.
That is not like a cool down run.
Maybe for a Force user, that is.
She was in second place. Wait, wrong. She's in first place.
Right.
She got first place.
She is running, though, with her lightsaber out. I mean, we should note that.
Yep. And,
so, my guess is she's not running away from something, but running towards something.
Right. Notice the color of her saber. I'm just going to say that. Foreshadowing.
Blue. Yes. Okay. What do we see next?
Next scene, we have Kylo Ren, the scene that I mentioned earlier. His scar visibly still unhealed over his right eye, from which he received from Ren or from Rey during the Force Awakens in their epic battle.
Right.
The first confrontation.
I don't know about you, Steve, but when I first saw the first mock-ups of his lightsaber before the Force Awakens came out, I looked at that and I was like, man, this is stupid. This looks dumb. It's silly. Then The Force Awakens came out and I was like, yeah, I really like this lightsaber. It's different. It's unique, which is, I'm glad to see uniqueness in Star Wars. But in this shot, we only see him and he's holding his lightsaber kind of towards the camera and he's kind of slowly rotating his wrist. And for some reason, I thought of the scene in Princess Bride where Inigo Montoya is holding his foil up and he's like, you killed my father, prepare to die. And then he just like slowly kind of he kind of like
and then doesn't he just turn and run?
Yeah, he twists his wrist and then he like turns and runs. I don't know why, but I thought of that.
That's exactly what's going to happen here. Kylo's going to be like, and just run.
Turn my wrist, point my lightsaber at you, and zoinks, I'm out of here, guys.
This bird's gonna fly.
Yeah, see? Yeah. Kylo Ren
and Burgess Meredith, apparently.
Looking good. So the next scene, though, we see, this looks like actually something we saw in The Force Awakens. You remember the scene where Rey is in that cantina bar and with Maz? And she goes down there and she goes to grab the lightsaber and she kind of gets like this Force vision and she sees what we assume is Luke and R2 on this like destroyed looking planet with like this city that looks like it's burning, and Luke reaches out like a metallic hand and puts it on R2. Well, the next scene we see in this trailer is like a hooded robed figure like kneeling down right next to R2 with that kind of same burnt out building, stuff everywhere.
Embers flying in the wind.
Yeah, so it makes me totally think that this is part of something from The Force Awakens, or made to look like that moment in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, just clearly from another angle.
Right, absolutely. And then we also see in that same kind of scene, we see Captain Phasma, the silver bedazzled, overly large stormtrooper. And
right.
Phasma's leading a bunch of troopers kind of through that whole wreckage. This looks like it's some sort of an assault maybe on a planet. I mean, is that the impression you get, or is this like a citywide thing? What do you think?
I thought that was actually Destro from G.I. Joe that had come from the wreckage, but I didn't know. I was like, are we meshing genre here? Is this like the restaurant of movies?
Cobra!
Oh my gosh. I got to readjust my headphones for that. So no, I assume that it's from the same vision, because you see those embers coming up, so I assume that this is maybe the cause of said destruction is this Knights of Ren.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think you're maybe going to be right. It's something going to be right around there. The second to last scene, we see a big space battle. It's taking place over what looks like, and this is just a guess of mine, it looks like the planet in which Luke is on. And if that's the case, and it's a big space battle, it looks like it's going on, I wonder if the location of where Luke and Rey gets leaked. And now it's going to be a race to see who can get there first, because the First Order wants to take out Luke, and the Rebel Alliance, the Resistance, they want to protect Luke and Rey, and get them out safely. That's a guess. That's my best guess I can come up with, but it could be something completely, totally different. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I don't know planets by their, outer space look, but what I will say is this battle looks epic. I mean, this first scene, you can't even count the number of TIE fighters and X-Wing that are just, oh my gosh.
All over the place, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Looks crazy. So I would, by default, just say I agree with you.
Okay. So Steve, the last shot of this trailer, the one that I think is going to have everyone buzzing about this thing, is
they did it right.
We see Luke standing, like the shot is from like inside the cave, like looking out towards the entrance of the cave, and Luke is silhouetted in the entrance of the cave, and he turns back, which we can assume he's talking to Rey, and he says, "I only know one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end."
Boom.
Wow. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I'm nervous, and I think this is what Bryce Jolly was kind of alluding to, is he talking about like completely dismantling the Jedi altogether? Is he talking about maybe like the Jedi as we knew them needs to end, and we need to be the next generation of Jedi 2.0, if you will? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, so the one thing that I've kind of been going back to is this notion of bringing balance to the Force, right? And there was a movie poster that has Rey in it. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but it's kind of akin to the original Star Wars, right?
Yep.
Poster with Luke, and he's holding up the lightsaber, but then there, it basically is spires straight up. And in this movie poster, her blade is not blue. It is both blue and red. And so my question is Rey going to be what is noted in canon as a gray Jedi, neither on the light side of the Force or the dark side of the Force?
That's interesting.
Because it looks as though from this shot, I mean, Luke looks like a broken man. I mean, he looks
right.
He's kind of resting himself. It looks like he's beaten.
Yeah, I wonder. So here's my thinking why I think maybe that's not going to be the case of a gray Jedi. Neither light or dark. Why would you go to Luke for training? Because obviously Luke was on the light side of the Force the entire time, right? Maybe because he's the only Jedi.
I think we've seen some scenes where Luke could be, where he's fighting. He's fighting.
Sure,
with,
he struggles with it.
Yeah, with the Darth Vader's mask when he sees himself in it and his own internal struggle. And so I wonder if Rey is struggling with that as well, and Luke is like, my gosh, I have failed yet again.
So I definitely think we're going to get a broken Luke Skywalker. He's obviously much older. He's not going to be the cocky young moisture farmer that he used to be. He's not going to be the Jedi that he was in Return of the Jedi, who helped turn his father back from the dark side and destroy the Emperor. I think he's going to be broken. I mean, he tried with the Knights of Ren, raising up and teaching Jedi, and then the Knights of Ren betrayed that and slaughtered everyone there. His star pupil, left him, which obviously has got, huge overtones to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader.
Right.
But here's what I'm thinking, and maybe this is some fantasy fan wish fulfillment that I want it to be this, but I'm going to stand by that. I think that a lot of what we see in this trailer, not all of it, but a lot of what we see in this trailer is Rey's vision that she has when she goes through her own version of the dark side cave. And I think that maybe this thing with Luke saying it's time for the Jedi to end, because for her, that would be like her worst fear, right? I mean, she got abandoned by her family and she was stuck on the planet, and she finally gets off, and then she finds out that the Force is real, and then discovers that she actually has the ability to control the Force. And zoinks, we're going to take this away from you too.
Right.
You're doubling down on misery. I think that this is one of her worst fears, and so that this is actually what she's seen in her cave experience, like a Force vision. And I think it's a big red herring because they're calling this the Last Jedi, and to put something in like this, it's going to have a lot of people talking. What does it mean? I think it's a red herring. I think they're just trying to throw people off. And if that is the case, and it's not going to go that direction, A, I'm okay with that. B, that is fan-freaking-tastic work on a trailer.
So I would probably agree with you that being that they still have how many more films to make?
Episode 8 and then episode 9.
Okay. So we still have a little bit of story to tell, so I would probably lean towards your point of view with what this final scene in the trailer means. Let me ask you this. Are you going to be okay if the saga of Star Wars ends tragically?
No! If Luke dies and Rey dies and there's no Force and there's no hope, man, I'm going to have a hard time. I'm going to have to shed some man tears. I mean, that's just all there is to it.
Is that actually just bacon grease that comes out of your eye ducts? Is that what man tears are?
That's exactly what man tears are, bacon grease. I mean,
but you wonder about that, though. I mean, you wonder. You see some movies where they don't always end on a happy note, and could that potentially be what the setup is
here? Empire didn't end on a happy note. I mean, not really. I mean,
right.
Luke finds out that Darth Vader's his father. He loses his hand. The last shot's them, on home one, watching the rebel fleet jump away from them, right? It's not it doesn't end very happy. It's kind of a heavy ending movie. But then it follows up with the Ewoks and, the little, Teddy Ruxpin wannabes in Return of the Jedi. And you feel better about it at the end. I guess, though, for me, if I'm looking at it objectively, Star Wars has been a huge part of my life for pretty much my entire life. So if it ends on a dark note, or if it ends tragically, storytelling-wise, if it's done right, I'm going to be able to appreciate that on certain levels. But as far as the fan inside of me and what I want for fan service, I don't know that I want it to end super saccharine sweet, like, hey, we, killed Kylo Ren and the Sith have been eliminated and there's finally going to be, good times ahead of us.
They bring the Ewoks back in for a big party.
I don't need the Yub Yub song. I don't need that kind of finale and ending. Although, I'd take it. No, but
who doesn't love a good Yub Yub song?
The Yub Yub song.
Yep.
I really don't need that ending, but I do want to have some sort of hope or some sort of, positivity. Like, hey, we lost more people, more characters that we cared about, but maybe a feeling like there's a chance that things are going to continue on. Because for someone who's a huge fan, I want to know that they may not make more movies following the Skywalker clan and this whole idea of the Force and whatnot, as the main participants. I want to know that there's going to be other stuff, whether that's comics, whether that's books, something. I wouldn't be ready for it to end completely, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess my question as well, and I appreciate your answer, is that when I look at Rogue One, which we reviewed, some time ago,
right.
I think we both came to the the mutual conclusion that we really appreciated the way that it ended,
Yes.
right? We appreciated that not everybody lived.
No one did.
That's right. But it gave more meaning and more weight to the conclusion,
Right.
and you felt like, well, this was really worth something, right? This wasn't just everybody gets off, everybody's happy, and they get the plans. No, a lot of people died, a lot of sacrifice happened, and it was with a heavy heart but at the end there was still, as Leia poignantly said, we have hope.
Right.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
we've got to wait to December 15th. We're not going to get any answers. Now we're going to get probably another teaser trailer and a full trailer later on in the year. But for now, this is what we're going to be talking about, and this is what we're going to be analyzing and looking over. So we got to wait till December 15th. But that doesn't mean, though, that this is the only information on Star Wars that we got this last weekend. Star Wars Celebration had some other stuff, and we want to talk about it. So something else that they released, this is big for me, for a lot of gamers, is they released footage and announced that they're making a Star Wars Battlefront 2 game. Now, I have the first Star Wars Battlefront. It's a lot of fun. It's just a multiplayer game. It's a shooter. You get to play as, depending on the mode, but you can play as Darth Vader and the Emperor and Boba Fett and Luke and Han and Leia, or just some random, rebel or random, Empire guy. But one of the big complaints about the game was that there was no campaign mode. It was just all multiplayer, kind of deathmatch or capture the flag or whatever. Battlefront 2 will actually have a real campaign mode. So it's going to have a story, and you're going to be able to play as a character and play through a story besides the online multiplayer aspect. And that story is actually going to be canon. So if you want to experience more of the Star Wars universe with an official story, you can play the upcoming Star Wars Battlefront 2 game that I think is going to release mid-November, so probably about a month before the movie. And the game is also going to feature all the different eras of Star Wars. So it's going to have stuff from the prequels, stuff from the original trilogy, stuff from Rogue One, stuff from what they're now calling the sequel trilogy. I think that's really smart, Steve, releasing it about a month ahead of time before the movie. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, talk about Nintendo-esque marketing, and I also think that the fact that they're going to make it canon, I mean, it's a pretty bold move.
Right. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a massive story, like you have to play the game in order to understand what's going to happen in Episode 8. But I like the fact that they're making it canon. It's not just like a little side thing that doesn't really matter in the end.
Yep. One of the other things that I thought was really cool, and I hope I don't jump ahead on this one, but Star Wars Land has been announced at Disney World and Disneyland, coming, I think, in the next few years. But what was cool about the article that I think we shared on on the show notes this week is that it will be totally interactive.
Yeah.
You'll be able to go almost like, open world. But what's interesting about it is the choices that you make, whether you choose to fight the light, the dark, whether you choose to pilot the Millennium Falcon, all these different choices will actually have consequences later on throughout your experience in Star Wars Land, which I think is just so cool. How they're going to do that, they've got these magic bracelets. They haven't, revealed everything, but at D23, the D23 Expo in July, they're going to have more reveals. But what they did say in this article was that there are going to be two rides, one that you're going to be in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, and the other one that I think is probably going to be more of a shooter game where you're going to be kind of in the thick of a battle between the Resistance and the First Order. So if Harry Potter Land was a hit in Hogwarts, I think this is going to be freaking gigantic.
Right, absolutely. And my wife, Brita, is a huge Disney nerd. She loves all things Disney. I love Disney as well, not to the level she does, though. But Star Wars Land inside of Disneyland and Disney World, can I live there? Can you just make me a little apartment above the bathrooms. I don't care where. Just get me in.
Right. So I think, talk about, a dream come true for so many people.
I think, Steve, this is smart. I mean, just on so many levels, it gets more people into the parks. Sure. That's fine. You're always going to get people into Disneyland and Disney World. But the idea of making it interactive, not just hey, we have an interactive experience for this one ride, but multiple rides. And it could, like later, I think the article said something like a bounty hunter, may start chasing you down if you made certain choices and may start.
If you fly the Millennium Falcon well.
Right. And I think that's a unique idea. I don't know if there's been any amusement parks that have done anything on that level yet that I'm aware of. Are you aware of any that have done anything like that?
Nope. I mean, the closest was the video game water slide that you got to,
right.
Go against your friends. I mean, literally, I don't know.
So
interesting. I think it's I think to quote Mel Brooks from Spaceballs, merchandising. You take a brand and you find out how many legs it can have. I mean, that's they have they're nurturing it well. So
something else that came out, I don't know if maybe you saw this or not. Captain Phasma, as we talked about her, the bejeweled silver stormtrooper. Destro, yes. She's actually going to have a comic series based on her character that I think is going to bridge the gap from where we saw her last in The Force Awakens to where she's going to appear in Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Now, I really like the look of Captain Phasma, and I thought Captain Phasma was going to have a much bigger role in The Force Awakens based on like the marketing that was done with her. Like they showed a lot of pictures of Captain Phasma, and I've got some Star Wars cups when I went to the movie that we got pop in that had Captain Phasma on them. So I'm thinking this is going to be a bigger role. Not really a huge role though in Force Awakens. We saw Captain Phasma at the very beginning, and then Captain Phasma gets, forced into a trash compactor. That was right. Kind of it, right? So there's going to be a comic that's going to come out that's going to give the character more story, more background, and is going to bridge the gap between the two movies. That's awesome. I like that. I think for people that are going to read comics, they're going to want Star Wars comics. That's going to fill a need, and I think that's great. I really hope, though, that the character Captain Phasma gets a lot more time in the next movie and has more substance to the character.
Yeah. And I think the last thing that I wanted to bring up was, and I know you've seen this, which I thought was just awesome. It was just a touching tribute to Carrie Fisher that you can check out. Maybe we can throw it up on one of our many pages, and you can take a look at it at home. But it was just showed some very candid scenes behind the scenes. Had some commentary from Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, George Lucas. Had some interviews that Carrie Fisher had done later in life, and just some really really sweet things.
Yeah, you're talking about the tribute to Carrie Fisher, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about a 5.5 minute video, and man, it got me a little teary eyed. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I almost had those bacon grease man tears we were talking about, because for me, Carrie Fisher's portrayal of Princess Leia was, in movies, probably one of the first memories I have of a very strong female protagonist. She wasn't the typical damsel in distress princess. No, she was tough. She was a rebel. She, was, taking on and facing down Darth freaking Vader right at the very beginning. When Han and Luke are debating on what to do when they're in the detention center, she just takes a blaster and just takes charge and punches a hole in the garbage chute and, forces everyone down in there. For me, she was just one of those, my first memories of a really strong female character in movies. And they were showing some of this and talking about her. And it was tough not to get choked up. And they were playing David Bowie's Rebel over kind of some of that segment.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was listening to that and just very nostalgic, very touching. I liked that they showed some of her clips like later on in life, like, you know, her taking questions like on the Today Show from Katie Couric and, you know, telling jokes and whatnot, because that was Carrie Fisher. Like, she was irreverent and funny and really witty and quick, and the one thing that stuck out to me is that you know that these people are actors. You know that they studied to, you know, learn the art of mimicking emotions and, you know, doing things to make people feel or have a reaction to things. So, like, you know, she's a person, a real human being that's doing this for a job, right? This is her career. But they show this clip where they have her and she's reciting all of her lines from Star Wars. And this is,
you're saying later in life.
Later in life, she still knows them. Like, gosh, I can't tell you what I ate for breakfast 3 days ago, let alone recite, you know, something from Shakespeare that I knew at one point in my life. And
block of cheese.
Yeah. Here she is, though, still to this day, you know, knows her lines and knows the script. And man, that was really cool. Like, I thought that was a really interesting thing to kind of add to that. Beautiful. Definitely worth seeing. Yep. The other thing, though, involving Carrie Fisher that was announced over the weekend was last week we kind of talked about the thing that Todd Fisher, the brother, and her daughter had said that they were okay with using Carrie Fisher's footage and likeness in episode 9. But Kathleen Kennedy has come out, she's the head of Lucasfilm, has come out and said that Princess Leia is going to be in episode 8, but will not be in episode 9, that they got together because they're still kind of writing the script for episode 9 and the story, and they decided that they're not going to try to use footage and kind of bungle it in an attempt to shoehorn her in there, that she filmed everything she was going to film in episode 8. They're going to use that. And then somehow the story is going to go on without her, or at least without her physical presence in the 9th movie. So we have official word that she will not be in episode 9. So,
and that feels right.
I think so. I mean, I really do. But that's just me. I mean, yeah. I know some people are probably going to want to see her there, but I think that's the right thing to do all the way.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap up this discussion, just wanted to say, Bryce Jolly, I hope you're satisfied.
You asked, we answered, buddy.
You knocked, we opened the door, kicked it right in.
So let's do this, Steve. Question of the week is let's go back to the teaser trailer, because I think that's going to be the thing people are going to be talking about.
Sure.
When Luke says, you know, it's time for the Jedi to end, is he meaning what it sounds like he's meaning? Does he mean it's time for the Jedi to end, for the Jedi to go away? Or is this a Force vision from Rey, or is it something else? I want to hear what our listeners have to think. What does that mean? I want your interpretation on it. I'm going to go with, and I've said this, I'm going to go with this is part of her experience in the dark cave, the dark Force cave, the dark side.
And I'm going to say that Luke is going to go back to moisture farming.
Okay.
He's done. hanging up the lightsaber.
It's going to retire. So go ahead and give us your responses. You can reach us on Twitter at Fort of Nerd. You can reach us on Facebook, facebook.com/Fort of Nerd. Or if you'd like to fill out your answer in triplicate, you can do it by email, fortofnerd@gmail.com. And Steve, coming soon, we're going to have a website, my friend.
Holy goodness. Welcome to the 90s, baby.
We've talked about it, but I own fortofnerd.com, and I figure since that matches up with all of our other social media for the Fortress of Nerditude, we've got that. We're going to get a website put together, and so coming soon, if you stay tuned to this space, we're going to have a website as well.
We had to pay Danica Patrick like $10,000 for that URL.
Go daddy, baby. Go daddy.
All right. Well, with that, it has been fun to be with you. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week. Spence, you want to round us out?
Steve, listeners, friends, may the Force be with you always.